Hey guys, welcome to a demo, not a video critique, but a demo. There were some questions about how to do the photo merge, so that's what I'm going to go over today. And I'm going to use some student images from a student that I previously had in this class, previous version. So what I did was I opened up all of her images here. And you can see there are just some different shots of this shed. It's not like a really great image or anything, just one that I thought would be okay for this demo. And I'm going to show you one trick. You can see there's 14 of them here. I'm going to show you one trick that you can do if you have one or two of these images. Like, look at the difference between this image, like the exposure, say there, and the exposure here. They just don't match up. Now, this shouldn't be a problem, you shouldn't have this problem, assuming that you set your camera to manual and that you just leave it at one exposure for the whole thing. Every once in a while, like if you're using a light meter and you were to meter and then like the sun came out, so like the lighting condition has changed, you might get a little bit of an issue, but otherwise it shouldn't be a thing for you. So if if for some reason you did run into a problem, as the student has, where she has a couple of images that just don't quite match in terms of exposure, maybe these two. There is a trick that sometimes works. So go to the one that doesn't match the rest, which would be this one here. You're going to go to Image, Adjustments, Match Color. Now you should probably also make a copy of your background layer so that you have a version where this has been applied to, and then a clean version. And what you're going to do is you're going to get this dialog box, and you can pretty much ignore everything here except for source. And the image that was the correct one was Untitled 8, which is the one immediately to the left of it. If you hit OK, what it's going to do is just try and match the color to, there you can see it darkened it down some, which matches presumably the rest of these images. They're a little darker. She had a little bit of a blue cast, which you can see now it looks a little bit more like them. So you can do that. Again, I'm not necessarily using the best examples for this because this isn't like a perfect, these aren't perfect images or anything, but just wanted to show you how to do this process. Now you want to make sure and save that. This one right here, I think is what it was. You want to make sure and save it. Otherwise, it's going to give you a little error message. So go ahead and save, saying like all images must be saved. So now, oh, I'm sorry. Before I get ahead of myself, it's not a perfect solution. So don't just put your camera on auto mode or program mode and go out and shoot and not worry about them. Set your camera for one exposure, for one aperture and shutter speed, and just shoot everything on that. Even if an area you are worried it might end up a little bit light or a little bit dark, it's not really that important. The important thing is that all the exposures match each other. Otherwise, it's not, well, you'll see when I merge this together because this one's not perfect. There are different areas of the image that are obviously, the photo merge is obviously going to have image sections that are not matching perfectly. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to File and go to Automate and go to Photo Merge. Now with this you can either just have your first image open from your image sequence, or you can have them all open. I usually just open them all, make sure that they look good before I add them in. So if you hit browse, you can go and find them on your computer, or you can click add open files, and it'll add all the files that you have open in Photoshop. And because I'm doing this this video program, see, we got it again anyway. Document must be, all of your images have to be saved before they're merged. Hit OK. And then you have obviously different options, just like with your panorama images, your pano images from last week. You can do any one of them. How about let's do perspective. Why not? And then you just hit OK, and that will put them all together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit OK here, and I'm a bit worried because when you do photo merge, it tends to hog up a lot of your RAM, as does the program that I use to make your videos, which is another actually Adobe program. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and if the lag time gets too bad, I'll just stop the video and cut to the end. But I wanted to give you guys kind of an idea of what it looks like when you actually do this process. So here we go, fingers crossed, hopefully it won't be too slow. And it's going to go through, because we chose the command automate, it's going to do, you're going to see over here on your history panel, or on my history panel as the case is, that it's going through and doing a lot of actions automatically. You can also set up your own actions, which are like if there's something that you do exactly the same every time, you can actually go into Photoshop and set up an action for it, which is this panel right here next to history. And all you do is basically record the motions that you want Photoshop to do, and it will save that as a little thing, and then you just have to click on it and it'll automatically do those steps that you do over and over again on a daily basis. I don't actually have any actions set up at the moment. I used to do a ton of them, but there's just not, just the way that I work right now, there's not necessarily certain things that I do exactly the same over and over again. But if you find yourself like doing whatever, we can maybe go in another time and I'll show you what actions do. But there's a certain set of steps, like say you open an image, you resize it every time to certain dimensions, and you apply a filter for whatever reason. Actions are actually really good for that, just for repetitive little groups of commands that you do over and over again that you don't want to have to do. This is actually going at a fairly good pace. I mean, you can see all this stuff quickly flashing by, and that's what automate does. It, just like actions, it takes something that would take a bunch of steps that you'd have to do, and it does it automatically. So yeah, I just wanted you guys to see that. So like if you went and did it, and I'm sure you probably saw this when you did your panorama images, but I just wanted to to say that's what was going on. And you can see it just bips and bops along, and after a while you have your finished image. But yeah, there were some questions also about like what to do. This one is a little bit, how would you say? There's a lot of sort of very similar angles and perspective on everything. You can switch it up, make some diagonal, kind of go crazy, have little odd perspective POV shifts. You'll see there's a few little ones in here that are going to be pretty obvious once it comes out as a final image. But the more kind of crazy you go with it, the more that your borders are going to look, I don't know, cool. In my opinion, they're cool. They have sort of weird uneven borders as long as you don't go too crazy. But you also get like weird perspective shifts. somewhat like you can with some of the panoramas, but these are definitely that and even more so. Alright, so let's take a look. Should be just about done. It's kind of, you can see down here, it's moving them all around, adjusting them, making sure that they're all in the right spots. And this is also actually a thing that you can do by hand, which I'll also do in the video just to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like. But Automate is nice just because it really does a pretty good job of blending everything together, sort of having everything look, blended, as opposed to, if that's the look that you want, this is the way you want to go. If you want sort of a weird, disrupted kind of look, like edges don't quite match up, things like that, then you can always do this by hand. And I'll at least, give you some idea how to do that. But I do sometimes do that for more for fine art stuff. And I wouldn't necessarily do that for a commercial job, because there's not, unless I've suggested it to my client and they're sort of into it. But it can be a little bit jarring, as well as sometimes I think pretty visually pleasing, but that's not always what your client wants. A lot of times they just want something that sort of looks good and looks like everything else. It's kind of a battle of making unique or interesting work versus making work that's very commercial looking. Okay, here we go. So obviously this switched up a little bit because you can see it kind of stretched things a little bit in order to get the perspective right, because again that was the mode of Photomerge that I selected. And you can see, because of different angles on some of these, they didn't line up perfectly, but it definitely lined up a lot better than if I tried to do this pretty much any other way. And you can see some definite stretching along the edges. This is one way to do it. You could also do an automatic one. You can do it several different ways, and I can show you what those end results look like. But I tend to use this one a lot if I want things to look correct. You can see even this is just slightly off, because if you look at the original images, the pitch on this was this was a lot different than that. This really went down, and so the way that Photoshop rectified that was to kind of stretch this out and really pull it into true. But you notice, partially because we did the match color, and partially because of the way that we did it in there, it's pretty seamless. Even the colors are pretty consistent throughout. Part of that was that I did adjust a few of them beforehand, before I even started the thing. So if you did these steps like this is a perfectly acceptable way to do it. And I'm just going to show you, in addition to this, a few other ways that you can do it. So I want to show you guys a couple of other things that you can do in just sort of different options from that list where we chose, what did we choose? We chose perspective. So this one is the collage version. Now it doesn't do any kind of perspective warping. As you can see, this is pretty much just the images as they are. So you can even go through and sort of turn off and on various layers and see what came from what image. The advantage of this is that all of your layers from all your different images are actually still there. And then you can see also the layer mask that was put on them. And if you went through, if you were so inclined, you could turn off all the layer masks, and you would just have straight up images overlapping each other. And you can see as I'm doing this, you're starting to see the actual edges of the images themselves. So this is basically a way for the computer to give you more editing options. And also, if you do it this way, It's as close as you're going to come to, if you had just simply taken all of these images and overlaid them. Simply put them all into one document, and you can see what is coming from each one. You can also turn one off and on and see, okay, that's what it's doing to the image overall. So this is one way of doing it. This is basically just simulating right here, what they would look like all overlapped. So that's, I really don't use this much. The only advantage, again, is just being able to, if you wanted to move a layer, you could come in here and, move it, whatever. If you didn't want it to look real nice and lined up and precise, but you wanted it to look a little bit, hinky, you could certainly do that. Not sure why. There we go. Okay. So that's one way of doing it. Whereas you can see, I guess this does do it too. But there you have that option of doing it. There are some other things that you can do as well. Now this was cylindrical, and on this one I also clicked off. Usually when you do one of these, you have a button clicked on that says blend layers together. If you don't blend them together, you can definitely see where some of those, exposures were off. Whereas if you, when she was shooting this, if she had, put it on manual and just had the same exposure for everything, it would all look the same, more or less. So that's a couple of other ways that you can do it. I'm also going to show you just like another example here, which is one where the images aren't quite so, lined up as well. They're intentionally like more Dutch angles and a little bit more warped, just so you can get an idea of what. So I'm just going to flip over to that real quick, and you can see she put her contact sheet here. So you can see she definitely went for more, again, of these sort of Dutch angles, a little bit less regular than the last example I showed you. It's really so kind of canted all over the place, different things. Hey, Christina Bauer. Now you know who did it. And then this is how hers looked. So you can see this is often, just with the last one here, I'll back over there for 1 second. Even with our nice version, you can see like sometimes horizontal lines, they tend to be more horizontal lines than vertical lines, tend to get a little bit sometimes choppy. And you can see that again with hers too. Like this horizontal line doesn't quite line up, and the bumper is just a little bit hinky, but you can see this sort of really uneven edge that I was talking about. So there's multiple ways to do it. You don't simply have to try and make it like your like your panorama that was really pretty much just set up your tripod, click, move it over, click, move it over, click, move it over. Either, I guess we all did them horizontally. You could do them vertically, although, unless you're doing something that's super tall like a tree or the Sears Tower or something, it wouldn't necessarily make sense to do vertical. But you can see, again, she got essentially just a bunch of tighter detail shots. Like there's no full shot of this image in there. Like it's all details. And the angles are all canted. And it came up with this. And you get sort of these just slightly weird like perspective warps here, the way that this is not like straight back, but it's a little bit curved, almost like a fisheye lens, stuff like that. Yeah, so that is another way of doing it. Hopefully you guys end up doing something that's in between this, that's like kind of really canted and bizarre, and this other one, which is, the lines are pretty straight, but you can see too, like there's a lot more this is a lot more with perspective here. Like, you know, the edges are really stretched, whereas this one is pretty much, you know, you can really see the sort of like 90-degree angles at the edge of the frame. So this isn't really done for perspective, which again is probably why you get that slight, you know, warped perspective there. But you know, hopefully you guys do something that's kind of in between these, you know, sort of a little bit of this disjointed edge look, but not too crazy. You know, and you might, I would do one version like this, you know, where it's pretty much straight, like that, which is similar to, again, this version of it, you know, where everything's pretty straightforward. I would try doing one like this, you know, and then one like this for perspective, so that you can kind of see what the difference is and decide which one you like more. So hopefully that was helpful to you guys. Hopefully, I tried to, as soon as I heard that people were having sort of an issue with this when I whipped this up. So hopefully this comes in time. It's a whole day before the assignment is due. Hopefully this is up there and ready for you to have and for you to use. Alright. Thank you.